Initially, there were no red flag symptoms. That's the beauty and the beast of neuroendocrine carcinoma, is that its symptoms are very normal, everyday life symptoms. You're a 36-year-old healthy person who like, oh, well, if that part of my body was sore for a day or two, then that's normal because I work out every day. How did I not feel it? How did I not know? How did symptoms get past me? And he said, I've already spoken to 2 oncologists and we need to get you to MD Anderson. He said, this is a very rare cancer. My prognosis was 6 months to a year, maybe, if I was lucky. But of course I was like, no, not me. Not me. That's not my story. That's not how this is going down. This cancer is not very red flaggish, I would say. It's very, very silent. So it would be fatigue, night sweats, waking up all of a sudden in the middle of the night. At the same time every night consistently, I started waking up. I was having decreased strength and endurance in my workouts, as well as decreased appetite. Towards the end, there was some hormonal changes going on that I wasn't used to. So I would say that I was having some like mood swings and stuff like that. I honestly thought I was in perimenopause because I'm almost 40. I've not had any children, so it was reasonable. And my mother she had early, so it was reasonable that that was something that was going on. But other than that, that's the list. It's nothing crazy until literally 4 days before my diagnosis. And then it was a waterfall. I always go back to the Thursday prior. I noticed that my urine was darker than normal. You know, going to exercise and being in the gym and eating healthy, I drink tons of water. So I'm used to seeing clear, pretty much urine when I use the bathroom. And I was like, wow, I'm dehydrated. Have I not been drinking as much water as I normally have been? But that Monday, I was not feeling well, was literally sitting in my physician that I work for's office talking to him and his wife, because she is a nurse practitioner at our clinic. And one of my coworkers walked in and looked at me and she was like, Haley, you're yellow. What is wrong with you? The doctor that I work for, so he whirls around and his wife does at the same time. And they both swirl around and look at me at the same time. And they're like, oh my goodness, you are like significantly. And Dana was like, you were not that color this morning. They're like, okay, you might need your gallbladder taken out then. I was like, yep. And Dr. Hemstreet was like, you know, you have mentioned to me a couple of times about you having like just like random little twinges in your right side, you know, and we've joked amongst ourselves about, hey, you might need your gallbladder taken out, you know, or something like that. And so it just escalated. We were like, hey, he said, I'm going to order some lab work on you. When it come back, my bilirubin was 5.3, and my AST and ALT, which are my liver enzymes, were about 5 and 6 times of what they should have been. But otherwise, all other lab work normal, kidney function normal, you know, blood counts, all that normal. No infection, white cells, all that normal. So again, we're still thinking you have an obstruction in your gallbladder, something like that's going on. Continue with the plan. But I'm going to admit you to the cardiac unit so I can have, you know, control over you. And he said that'll get you fast tracked for your CT scan and stuff. Let's go ahead and get ahead of this. He said, I'm going to call Dr. Palmer, which was our GI doctor that he is you know, close colleagues with, and she's a female, so he knew I would be comfortable with her. And he was like, and I'm going to call the surgeon too. So it's good to have people. It's good to know people. When the results had come back from my CT scan, I could tell by the look on his face. When he came in, I said, it's not good. I said, something's wrong. And he was like, it's not good. And he sat down on the edge of the bed and grabbed my hand and, you know, started telling me what all they saw. And, you know, we just hugged and he was like, do you want me to call your mom? I was like, yeah. He said, but we did figure out what was going on. She does have some growth around her common bile duct in her pancreas and her liver. He said that's what caused the blockage of everything. We're going to do an ERCP on her tomorrow to try to get that bile duct open and put a stent in so that all that can drain. The GI doctor that did that, Dr. Palmer, she was fantastic, and she tried for almost 5 hours to get a stent in for me so that they wouldn't have to like go in and put a drain and, you know, all this more traumatic stuff. But she was unable to do it because my anatomy and with all the growth that was going on. And so after her trying so hard for so long, I remember waking up from anesthesia and her almost in tears saying, I wanted to do this for you so bad, but I can't. She said, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to have to send you to Grandview, which is a larger upper level facility. The physician, he came to me and he said, because at this point in time, you know, we're all thinking pancreatic because of what everything looked like at this time, you know. While Dr. Palmer was in there trying to do my procedure, she did take some samples for biopsies. But of course they hadn't came back yet. And so he said, from looking at the films, he said, Haley, I've diagnosed pancreatic cancer. And he said, this is not what this is. He said, I don't know what it is, but that's not what it is. That Thursday night is when, you know, the night after I got my stent placed is when the results from the biopsy from Tuscaloosa came back and showed neuroendocrine carcinoma. The physician that I worked for, you know, of course, he got the results back before anybody, and he called me and he said, I've already spoken to 2 oncologists and we need to get you to MD Anderson. He said that's where we need to go next. And he said, you know, this is a very rare cancer. So this is Thursday. All this just started on Monday. So on Thursday, we've got a diagnosis and we're going to MD Anderson. So within 7 days, I was on the road to MD Anderson. When he told me, I was just like, I was like, how? Like, how did we not know? Like, how did I not feel it? How did I not know? Because that's what I told him. I said, how did symptoms get past me? He said, you're a 36-year-old healthy person who like, oh, well, if that part of my body was sore for a day or two, then that's normal because I work out every day. He said, you had an excuse for everything that was normal. And so it was just, I was like, how did this sneak up on me so fast and so aggressively without us knowing that something was going on? Because nobody, you know, of course, nobody else noticed anything either, other than just the times that I, you know, said, oh, that weird pain in my side, or I'm tired today, or I didn't sleep good last night, or, you know, something like that. It was like the rug was pulled out from underneath me. I just want to be so aggressive with that because of people not overlooking small things and small changes in the way that their body is reacting and acting aside from their normal, of how we're all so busy and so in a rush in everything that we're doing in life these days that we just brush everything under the rug because it's an inconvenience to stop and take a look at it. And I want people to stop and take a look and listen to their bodies. A blood panel, a chest x-ray, and, you know, something small could save your life. They did my PET scan and we did a chest, abdomen, and pelvis CT. That CT scan showed nodules in my lungs. Then the PET scan showed a hot spot on my right breast. And so we were all like, that is very odd. Why is that there? Because normally neuroendocrine carcinoma originates and kind of stays within the GI tract. That biopsy comes back, it does show that it was breast primary for neuroendocrine, which is very rare. And the oncologist told me that she has only ever seen 3 people. I would have been the 4th that had breast as the primary from a neuroendocrine carcinoma. But I was continuously getting phone calls of, okay, it was breast primary and it's also positive for progesterone. And it's also positive for estrogen, but it's HER2 negative. So then they started testing it for all like breast cancer stuff and all those genes. And it was positive for those, and they had never seen anyone that had a positive hormone with it, but it wasn't breast cancer. The ribbon for neuroendocrine carcinoma is zebra stripes. And so because it is so rare, that's what its ribbon is. And so like I was a zebra among zebras, given a diagnosis and a prognosis that was devastating, because initially we thought this cancer was one that was kind of dormant, was kind of the initial that we had thought. But on my side, mine was the carcinoma, and it was what my gastrointestinal oncologist called the ugliest of cancers, is what she called it. And she told me that my prognosis was 6 months to a year, maybe, if I was lucky, likely less. But of course, I was like, no, not me. Not me. That's not my story. That's not how this is going down.
Sorry, these are happy tears. This is so sad. I finally went back to the gym today, and it was amazing to go back in there.
So when we came home, we locked down on, diet, keeping things like positive. We're, doing all kinds of different things and keeping my body healthy so that it can tolerate my chemo. At first they had me taking a platinum-based drug, carboplatin, and then peglotaxel, which is a 3-hour infusion normally, and you have a 21-day cycle, and you get that on day 1, and then you have 20 days to recover. I was getting chemo every week. I had no breaks. And so I did that for 9 months. It's basically treatment indefinitely until it stops working or I become intolerant to it. The hair loss, I would say, was the hardest thing from the initial diagnosis, because I think I was still in shock. The hair started falling out less than 2 weeks after I got my first treatment. I had taken a shower and I kind of run my hands through my hair with the conditioner, and it was just coming out and, just all over my hands. And I just stood in the shower, and I was just crying, and I was just like, okay, we knew this was coming. We knew this was going to happen. And I stood there and I had a conversation with God, and I said, if you ever asked me my favorite thing about myself prior to this, I would say it was my hair. I loved my hair. That's why it was so long. I let it grow and just did whatever it wanted to do. And I went the next day and I got my hair cut. And by the end of that week, I shaved my head because it started coming out so much that it was matting and it was itching and it was hurting. And so I just embraced it. All of my scans, regardless of what I was told, has shown nothing but regression since we've started. Not even just stability, just regression. The word remission was used on some of the spots on my liver in the last scan that I had at MD Anderson in January, and also some of the spots on my lungs. So we're just exceeding expectations. We're doing the opposite of what we thought we were going to do. We're just being a unicorn, a zebra. We're being different and doing the things that said that we probably wouldn't do. And just, it's exciting, and I'm thankful. I'm blessed. I feel like between God and my extra stuff that I'm doing and my medical team, it's just, I literally praise every day for all of the blessings that I have, because this is just, I literally could not ask for more, because he's already given me more than they told me that I would have.
Walter, what do you have to say? We have 1,000 followers now.
It's so humbling to see people say how much of an inspiration that I am, and how they see me going through what I'm going through. They're like, you never see you without a smile on your face. And I'm like, well, what is being sad or mad or wallowing in my misery gonna do?
I'm a very independent person. I have never asked for help, but I have learned over the course of the last year and to allow people to help you, allow people to bless you, allow people to get joy from helping you, because that's what it is for them. The people that love you don't know how to help you, and so just let them do.
But if somebody calls and asks, can I bring you dinner? Say yeah. Let them bring you dinner. If somebody wants to come over and clean your house, let them.